Call the Finance Committee of April 22nd to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now I saw Mike somewhere. Might as well. I saw him down there.
Why don't you start with police? Yeah, why don't you start with police department?
Chief Clark, would you like to, do you have anything to present? I'm not sure. I'm not sure where Mike is.
Way to make an entry.
Hey, Mike.
Where are you?
Wasn't sure what, if you wanted Chief to come up or how you wanted to.
Okay. Well, the first is police department. And if you look on your budget, the recommendation for the police department is $3,376,078 under personnel services, and charges and expenditures $207,710. And with this budget, the chief can explain more, this would allow for another resource officer.
Good evening. So in this year's budget, we, like past budgets, we asked for a second school resource officer. As you know, the first one is a 75-25 split with the schools. The current school resource officer has been full-time since 2014. There's one school resource officer for 5 schools. There's quite a bit of work that goes into it that's really, truly not publicized. A lot of security concerns and working with the schools about resources and building safety and things like that, along with dealing with, I'll call it trouble kids. So, over the last couple of years, he's actually come to me and asked me, when's the chance that we're going to have get a second person to assist and do some more proactive things. So, the last couple of years, we've asked for a second school resource officer, and this will be a half-year position, which will give me time to backfill somebody.
Now, the current resource officer, he spends much time in the high school, and he's not able to communicate with the other schools?
He has an office in the high school, and the far majority of his time is spent there. I'd say the middle school is next, and the elementary schools are very, very few. Less than 1% of the time he's getting to the elementary schools.
So with the addition, that will get the younger...
Exactly.
Okay.
Aaron, Clark?
Yes,
So this second resource officer will be dedicated to the high school?
The first school resource officer will be dedicated to the high school, which he is, primarily now. The second one will be dedicated more or less to the middle school, and they'll split the elementary schools.
And the high school will have someone there all the time?
Like I said, most of the time, I'd say well over 80% of his time is spent at the high school.
Well, I know that currently you have members of the staff that are teaching the alcohol and drug awareness program at the middle school. So I think this is a great opportunity to put someone in there more permanently and free up additional resources for other community policing type endeavors.
Mike?
I just have a question on what the resource officer does. Does he make regular patrol, like in the grounds inside, or is he basically in his office mostly?
No, I wouldn't say he's in his office. I mean, he's meeting with teachers, staff, students on a regular basis. He doesn't have set office hours. He's out, with the custodial staff and building staff talking about security issues. He's planning lockdown drills, safety drills, discussing and putting together prevention programs, you know, whether it's domestic violence related, to bring in some speakers, working with staff and things like that. So there's kind of a wide variety of different areas that he addresses.
I'm not, like, he's not locked in there all the time, but is there part of it just like a, you know, just a, even just a leisurely, you know,
Oh,
stroll around the
I would say
property?
yes.
Yeah, every so often, okay.
Does the Commonwealth have guidelines and for each district to follow? Is there one?
There is a best practice MOU that we are signing with the school. We have a MOU in place now. They recently just came out with a best practice MOU that we're reviewing to sign for next year.
So does,
A memorandum of understanding on, you know, what the duties entail for the school, what the police responsibilities are, and how people can work together.
and is there a checklist that gets submitted to Department of Public Safety?
No.
or-
No.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yep.
To answer your question,
Can you?
I received.
Sorry. I get reprimanded if.
Kind of a big guy to hide.
How could I hear him so?
I wanted to sit next to Mike tonight, but he said no.
Just to address your comment, the issues that we see are listed through my office and through the chief's office, and in general discussed with the school committee, and actually in executive session. We use that protocol because school safety is one of the things that we can take into executive session. But we do have itemized lists from everything from a criminal situation to a situation where they're helping us with a non-criminal situation, to a student that's got a total breakdown, to a student that's court involved. Any of those types of issues. We get on average, about 80 to 100 cases that he's working on throughout the part of the month.
No, my question was more not to report, but the guidelines that, you know, there's so many, you know, an activity report, a scope of work, you know.
So I think as the town manager, I just promoted you or demoted you. I don't know which one it is.
This time of the session, it's promotion.
But there is a
Yeah.
summary report that's done every
That's
every
what I
month
meant.
that, you know, since January, I have 3 reports here that, as the superintendent said, there's about 256 incidents that happened since January of this year alone, that the school resource officer handled.
And we also use the school resource officer for, at the beginning of the year, every school goes through training on our protocol and procedures for the ALICE training. So that's done within the first 6 weeks of school in every school with the staff. Then there's follow-through. He also helps us with our Students Against Drunk Driving program, in terms of the cars that you sometimes see out there. Any searches that would come from dog searches goes through him and the chief. I find out 5 minutes before it happens. No one else has that except for the 3 of us. Things like that. Today, I can assure you, for example, I only use his cell number to call him if I need him. I actually called him today to schedule some time on the potential that if this goes through, us taking a look with the chief on what would be the best practices. We need to get proactive. We are more so reactive right now because of the issues. And most of it has to do with everything to do with cannabis and all the Juul stuff that you're seeing out there. And we do test that stuff and make sure that if we can throw the law at something, we can. Chief knows this better than I do, but the laws have changed. So when all of us in this room were in school, you know, you had this, if you will, police officer-school relationship where if somebody did something bad, you were arrested. You can't arrest anybody today under the age of 12. It used to be 7, if I remember correctly. So, you know, we have a student brings pot into school. We're going through the whole process of trying to educate the child because going through PD is almost impossible, not because of them, but because of the way the laws have been set up. And we fully support this.
And so it's a half year?
Well, it's going to take me time to get somebody in place to backfill that officer, so that's why I put it as a half-year position.
Okay, okay.
Commonly it takes 6 to 9 months to do the whole process, so that's what we're looking at.
Okay.
So what is your cost of covering that resource officer?
$31,000.
And Chief, I don't know, you saw the recommendation. Are you fine with the numbers that town manager's recommending?
Yes, I mean, it's the usual cut in overtime and see if we can get the money in the fall. But-
Okay. And I just looked at the budget as of, that the town accountant just sent out, and I noticed that shift pay is over budget right now, incentive pay, and special police.
So last year, we actually had a special police officer working as a full-time police officer. It alleviates some overtime, so that's why it increased. But the budget will be, below.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you voting on those?
Do we want to presentations first, or vote, or
Presentations, and then we can
do all the presentations and
listen,
vote?
probably listen to all the
Yeah.
presentations.
The next budget is fire, and normally I do the schools first, but Joe told me he wanted to be here for, could this be our last finance committee meeting, Paul? So, the fire department budget as recommended in personnel services, $3,744,696, and charges and expenditures, $185,800. So that's a reduction of $90,000 in the overtime account, and $6,000 under repair maintenance of vehicles.
Looks like we're good.
Let me just ask the,
Oh.
Chief, sorry, you saw the town manager's recommendation, you're fine with your operation with the recommend?
So the same thing that Chief Clark said, that hopefully we'll be able to recoup most of this at the October town meeting, because that is a significant cut in our level service budget from this year, actually. So hopefully that we'll be able to recoup, or the next chief can recoup most of that at the October town meeting. So,
And Chief, in your budget as well, incentive pay, is that the stipends?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Steven?
Mike?
Since you were here last time, I was talking to some people from other towns, and I know we encourage all, firefighters to go get paramedics, and, it's, town benefits, but in some towns, they limit how many paramedics they can have in town based on the need of the town, because I know they get paid more for everyone who's a paramedic. Do we have any, has there been a needs assessment on how many paramedics we actually need, and as opposed to how many we have?
So we're not even close to the mandate yet, because we're a civil service department. In order for me to request an actual paramedic-only list, I have to meet the criteria that shows that we're not even close to being where we're at to man our two rescues, and we're not. So we're doing, Mike, I don't know if you got any ideas on that, but I know like North Attleboro, it's not so much that they don't hire paramedics, but they take some of the more senior paramedics and give them a break off the ambulance at that point, and also allow them at that point to potentially give up their paramedic. And again, we know we're close to that point. We kind of threw some quick figures together before the meeting that running two paramedic ambulance services, you need 16 paid salaries right out of the gate. Just at the base salary level is more than we're bringing in with our ambulance billing. So just to know that it doesn't pay for itself, and that's why the idea that it's a combination fire and EMS unit, even though 80% of our business is EMS right now, that 20% is key, that you need a lot of people to fight fires. So it works out well having a combination unit, but it's not by any means self-funding or anything like that. So we're still a ways away from being at our threshold where the civil service will say, no, chief, you can't hire a paramedic, you gotta hire just an EMT or I think that's the lowest they'll let us go, because we are in the ambulance service. But they're having a problem right now getting paramedics. That's one of the reasons why a lot of the towns are shifting gears. Attleboro, just got off the phone shortly before the meeting with Chief LaChance, and he's having problems in Attleboro right now as to the cost of hiring an EMT and then telling them you got 2 years to become a paramedic. Well, okay, Chief, you're going to pay the $15,000 tuition plus overtime for me to go, plus the backfill while they're gone because they're not counting for staffing. It's huge. He's figuring $40,000, $50,000 just to get that paramedic past the finish line. So fortunately, we've been able to hire paramedics and really good ones at that. I've said it before here. I would take this department against anybody out there is second to none as far as the quality of your personnel. So again, I think that says a lot about the fact that the people coming here are willing to work and put the effort in to stay cutting edge. And guys like Mike Wilson, that's our EMS director, making sure that we're on boat with it, and in the right path. So
Thank you.
that's your next budget. I don't know if I should stay up here. Actually, you have to come up and tell them the figures, because you cut that one like you were like a slasher. With the Rip, what's the guy? Rip, the guy from London? Jack the Ripper. Showed up in Norton.
The next budget is emergency medical, and the recommendation is $113,900. And in this budget, the cuts were under repair maintenance of equipment, $4,000. Ambulance billing, $10,000. Now, obviously, the ambulance billing is based on what we bill out. It's a percentage of what we bill out. So if we look over the first 3 months of the fiscal year and we're seeing that it could be an issue, then we'll look at adding money to that in October. The other cut was $2,500 out of medical and surgical supplies, and $1,000 out of additional equipment. So some of these smaller amounts, hopefully we can add that back in the fall if free cash is certified to a good number.
So same thing last year, you had me here talking about the skyrocketing price of drugs, medical supplies, things that we don't have any control over, and yet the town manager sees fit, just as being fiscally prudent, to wrench that back some. So again, I don't think that we could make the year on what we had proposed, so hopefully come October, we might be able to get some of that back. And regarding the billing, we bill, the billing company gets 3% to do all our collections for all our bills. So if we run out of money in that account, it's actually a good thing, and it's very prudent to give some more money to keep the billing process going forward. So, one of the things I was talking to Mr. Units about was the significant number of mandates that we're under with the, especially with the EMS side of things. They dictate so much now as far as what we need in the ambulance, how often it has to be checked and inspected, which is all pricey. And we just had, the other day, we had a very significant a bloody call from a trauma patient, and we found out that the stretcher mattress had hairline cracks in it just from being utilized, because you're sitting up, and you can think about the hospital beds and you're folding them, and like close to $2,000 to replace the mattresses out of the clear blue, which we weren't expecting this year. So it's not nickel-dime items just to maintain some of the quality equipment we do have, but we're mandated to do it because of the fact that there's exposure issues, and you don't want to be the next person on that stretcher and find out that there's some kind of a disease on it or something like that there. So the other big change in the budget, we talked about it previously, is the fact that as of February 1st, we're finally a full OSHA state. And it used to be right up until February 1st, the municipalities were exempt from OSHA requirements. So what was a suggestion last year that we should do is now a mandate from the state this year. So some of the stuff was like the 2-in, 2-out rule. And again, I had somebody at 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning send me a videotape from the Cape saying, I don't understand this. The house next door just got struck by lightning, and look at this, and there's 2 firefighters standing in front of the house. Well, the house was vacant, so there was no reason to risk a life at that point, but they were following the 2-in, 2-out rule. They follow it to the nth degree down there. They were waiting for the next 2 firefighters to be on scene before they went in. And I said, yeah, to the letter of the law, that's it. A lot of times we get here, we don't know if there's people in there, so we kind of violate that. But as of February 1st, it's a mandate. The 2-in, 2-out is an actual law that we're supposed to be following now and stuff. So again, these mandates, and again, they don't realize that when they voted on it. That's a sad part, the people in Boston just voted on it. It was all about DPW and the fact that they could be digging a trench on the left side of the road, and if the town was doing it, they wouldn't have a trench box. If a private contractor was on the right side digging it, they'd have to have a trench box. That inequity that drove the whole process. And they didn't realize how much it was going to affect public safety, especially the fire service. You know, I can't have guys up on the roof with all the harnesses and rigging so they can't fall off if they're up there trying to quickly cut a hole for preventing a fire and stuff like that there. And so we're still trying to find out how we're supposed to meet the mandates because we're an emergency service. We don't have time to pre-plan every single call we go on and stuff. So that's a real issue for us and stuff. So, again, I do hope that you'll support the fire chief going forward, the next fire chief, as well as you've supported me over the last 8 years under my tenure, because I've really appreciated the fact that we've had a great relationship and been able to work back and forth in an amicable way. So, and then my last comments about Chartley Station. It's been a hot topic issue since I've been chief. Chief Goins opened it up for his final month as chief. Well, I'm getting close to my final month as chief, so guess what? So one of the issues was we had, it's actually a year and a half ago now in the budget, you guys approved $25,000 capital to update the bathroom. And realizing there's only a single bathroom on the first floor there, it's a single hopper and a single urinal, and it was a floor-to-ceiling Fenway Park type of a urinal even, that's been there that long and stuff. So we put it out to bid like you got to do, and realistically it's 6 to 8, 10 months before it goes through the process of you people looking at it back in December for a capital item, moving it forward. It gets kicked from the May town meeting to the October town meeting, so there's 10 months right there. We got a price from a local contractor, and a good contractor, to do the job. He thought we were going to be able to do it like within the next few weeks, and he had a lull between a massive job he was going to do in Boston. So he gave us a great price. So the reason why the chief's been sitting on the money, I think is how social media puts it, that I'm just sitting on the money, is that we're waiting for that contractor to honor his bid, because he assured us he would. And he's finished up the job. He's actually working his butt off at Chartley right now and doing a really nice job of getting that bathroom finally redone. You can't have one bathroom and do renovations of it while the station's open. So it has delayed a little bit my idea of trying to experimentally open up the station with what I still think is too little of a manpower. But again, talking to Deputy Simmons, who's newly got appointed as our permanent deputy, in discussing it, if we can stay at that staffing level of 8 as a minimum, then we can probably run forward and keep Chartley open. But I did start the first 5 months of this year staffing only to 7. And again, so if you look at the cut that you've done on the overtime tonight, 90,000, that I've got to get back, and that still doesn't guarantee that we can stay at 8 for the whole next fiscal year. Part of that is the OJIs. I've had two open shifts that we were waiting for firefighters to get trained to fill. I got one of those filled, so that's kind of a plus. But I also just had another firefighter injure his shoulder on a roof at a fire that they were venting the roof. So I got a net balance here. I'm still down that one spot across the board. So to staff to 8, you got to I've got to hire man for man, and it's cost prohibitive. So again, hopefully we got another firefighter in the academy right now. He comes out, that helps with that equation. But again, all it takes is another injury or something like that, or a long-term sickness. And again, it's going to really make it difficult to stay at that level of 8 for Chartley to be open. That said, as soon as the bathroom's done, we're going to give it a whirl. I'm going to put a lieutenant and 2 firefighters up there with a district ambulance, since 80% of our job is the ambulance, and we're going to give it a whirl and certainly start next fiscal year off with the pot is full, keeping Chartley open through the summer months, where we actually do have a lot of vacation concerns that limits the amount of off-duty personnel available. So it'll be nice to keep the heavy staffing through the summer, and we'll see what happens from there. But we are going to give it a whirl, and I did want to make that clear that we're going to try it and see if it works. And again, understanding that they're going to be down at Station 2 a lot, and that's what happened previously. If this station goes out somewhere to East Norton for a call, then a lot of times you're going to have to move down to cover the main part of the town. So I wish Chartley was located by St. Mary's and this station was located by 495 Marketplace, because we could split the force in half and actually feel very comfortable. It's the fact that Chartley is so removed from the east side of Norton, which is the biggest growth in town now. It's the biggest growth. It's some of your highest risk occupancies and stuff. So it's tough to put too much of your staff skewed that far off of one side of the town, but we're going to give it a whirl. So I just wanted to let you all know that, and again, thank you for your support over the last few years.
Aaron?
Oh, you really going to have me talk about that one?
You're in charge of that.
Oh, my gosh.
Before you run off. So can you talk to me a little bit about what, you've got, this budget proposal is a cut to your level services.
Correct.
Can you talk to me about what is not covered in this budget proposal and how much money you might be looking for in the fall to get to where you need to be?
So just the level service side of it alone would be about an $80,000 putback on the overtime. But that, again, is to make it the level dollar value. The employees themselves have received raises. Some of them have received steps. We don't have slides like the schools, but we do have steps. So that changes the amount of money needed to even fill the overtime. So the true level service is that 90,000. And that's what I do. I take last year's budget and I figure out exactly what the dollar value would be to keep that same number of hours of overtime, basically. So we really would need in October that 90 back to be level serviced. And again, that's not potentially going to keep Charlie open if we have, any more injuries or things like that there, so.
And so is that it? It's just staffing, just salary?
No, so he has some expense cuts. The expense cuts, if you know that when you get a new car now, it's all about the computers and stuff like that there, and they're problematic and very pricey. When they break down, it's not going to get a set of points. If anyone remembers what those used to be or something like that, it's not that. It's getting a replacement module, a replacement computer. We had, for the first year, one of our ambulances spent more time in Johnson, Rhode Island at a transmission place because of just the computer not talking right with the rest of the vehicle. It took us forever to get it to work out and stuff. So one of the reasons why we went with that third mechanical spare ambulance was just because we wanted to make sure we had at least 2 in service at all times, because we're dumping too much time on the scene waiting for other towns to come transport and also losing the revenue from that transport. So it was a double loss. It was a loss in customer service and that. So there are cuts in there, like the fire side, I think it was from the maintained vehicles, Mike. And again, on the ambulance side, the big ticket item besides the billing was the medical supplies, and those are going off the chart. So if you look at level service and you were paying $100 for EpiPen, and this year it's $600, level service would be actually giving me the $600 for that EpiPen, not keeping it at $100. So again, I'm looking at a dollar value equal, but it's not going to buy the same amount of medical supplies, and especially pharmacology. And right now, there's a drug, Mike, I just saw an email from you. I don't pay that much attention to it because it's paramedic stuff, but there's a drug out there that we can't readily replace right now with the, was it the Epis? You got to give the EpiPens now. We got to actually draw it with a needle and give it directly to the patient instead of having the injectors, because they actually have a shortage of them nationwide. So it's not even the money part of it, it's the fact you can't even get some of the stuff now. So IV bags was another thing that was all coming out of Puerto Rico, and when it got hit by the hurricane, it took care of like 75% of the IV bags that we use. So, it makes it tough to try to keep a service running when you can't get the supplies.
So any idea as to what that might add up to?
I don't know, but again, that would be one of those items that if we had to come back to, especially on the EMS side, we would come back and look at the transfer from the ambulance fund. So at least there is some potential funding there available. Do you want me to bring that up, Mr. Units? No, so back in fiscal year 13, we used to take $400,000 out of the ambulance fund and just arbitrarily throw it into the budget. So again, and that again goes directly into the big piece of pie. In fiscal year 14, we bumped it up to $500,000. In fiscal year 18, we bumped it up to $600,000. So we are trying to contribute as much as we potentially can from the ambulance towards the general budget. One of our big concerns, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, is that we're the only entity in the state that the state insurance commissioner doesn't set the rates on. And trust me when I tell you, it irks them to no end. And again, between the Fire Chiefs Association and stuff, every year it's a fight. It's a fight on Beacon Hill to keep the insurance commissioner from setting it. Mike, what was the last you had heard that they would try to set it at?
$300 per run.
So again, if you think of right now, they would pay us at the base Medicare, Medicaid rate, period. We're at, 1,800 maybe for a normal ALS run, something like that, and 2,200 for an ALS 2 or something. I don't have the figures in front of me, but you can see that kind of a difference. So if you suddenly take that, you get comfortable with the idea of putting in that even 600,000 a year into the budget and find out that not only aren't we going to be able to put the money into the general budget, but you're going to actually have to pay for the supplies and the new ambulances out of the general budget as well because of the fact that this rate gets really cut. We don't want to get so potentially comfortable with giving too much and have it be a drastic undertaking for the town afterwards. So we talk about it, and the fund has enough in it right now so that we can, in the following year, buy another ambulance. We're going to be due for another rescue at that point, and still take out the additional capital needs. So this current fiscal year, we took out $904,000 in capital needs and the budget needs out of the ambulance fund. You know, so it's, you know, it helps. It really does help with the bigger picture, you know, so. Really, another budget.
Is that it on that? And the last budget is the emergency planning, and it's recommended level funded at $77,150, same as last year, and that was the request.
I will tell you that a lot of the grants that we get, and I'll give kudos to my number two. Ray Cord does a great job chasing down grants for us. Citizen Corps grants, emergency planning grants and stuff. We get a lot of front money. So this is a lot of pass-through stuff. So we get far more than the $7,150 a year benefit from that budget. So we haven't pushed it up. We haven't fought tooth and nail on it because Ray does a good job chasing down the money for us beyond that. So I think I had it in your regular budget sheets when I presented them to you previously, how much he's brought in for this year and stuff. So again, I appreciate you supporting that. Ray does a great job in that, you know, taking care of the minutia for me. So, all right, again, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Chief, thank you
Thank you, Chief.
for all your budget presentations.
The late nights?
The-
I'm told that I talk too much.
We never said that. Okay, Tom said that.
Next is communications, and the recommendation for communications under personnel services is $626,077. Our assessment to SEMREC, $51,000, and charges and expenditures, $142,500, or a total of $819,527. And in this budget, the overtime is only budgeted at $85,000, and we appropriated or transferred in $111,000 in this current fiscal year. We spent $110,000 in overtime in 17 and $192,000 in 18. So this budget contains two positions to be determined, two vacancies. We're kind of at we have 1 year to go, and our hope is that we will be able to fill the vacancies this year. Right now, Foxborough and Mansfield have joined through SEMREC to start doing dispatching, and all the employees from Foxborough and Mansfield obviously could not be hired, so there are dispatchers available that we hope we'll be able to bring over to work for us for a year until the transition. July 1, 2020, we'll be moving over to the center.
Mike, so how come we're like last?
Mansfield built a new police station, and they have no dispatch capability at all. So Mansfield moved with Foxborough and Foxborough's police station, and they only had enough room for the two there. And then Easton and Norton, once the center our new building is renovated, Easton and Norton will go into the center with the other two.
Mike, the 51,000, so that's going to be 102,000 over the last 2 years. What is that covering? The assessment?
That covers our portion of costs for the director and assistant director that are already on board right now. That's split between the four towns.
Salaries only, and then
Right.
hiring out the staff will happen.
That'll be paid by for this coming fiscal year, Mansfield and Foxborough will be paying for that staff. And then, once we go over there, the estimate, that we received originally was, that we'd have a savings of $437,426. So our cost at the the rec center would be $544,000 once we move in.
And so in 2 years, for 2021, this budget would go away, and it would be all,
This will be the last budget.
so 2020 and 2021, we
In
shouldn't,
2021, we would just have our assessment. It would just be an expense budget.
and we should see roughly 400,000 of savings.
Right.
In this. And my last question is just,
Well, that would include the savings. When they figure that savings, that's what we're spending right now on our dispatch of $819,527, plus their health insurance. All those costs would be figured in our one assessment.
all right, and then just right now, that line for that's department overtime is overdrawn 19,000? Is it realistic to say we're going to cut this back to 85, or is it one-time issue that we're running into?
No, I don't think it's realistic. I think it's something, again, in the fall, we're going to have to look at adding money to the overtime for the year.
So can we expect that 19 to, so we're 75% all the way through the budget, and we're 19,000 over. Do you see that growing
Yes.
by year end?
Yeah, right now, we're down 2 staff people.
And that's why the overtime's dry. Can we not just hire somebody in the interim?
Well, it's hard for us to hire someone now, and they know they're only going to be here possibly for a year, but we're hoping on the transfers in from Foxborough and Mansfield that we'll have for next year.
All right, thanks.
Can I say something about that? Yep. This is one of the reasons why we're going to a rec, because of the retention that we're able to get and the amount of overtime that keeps getting spent. So, when we go to a rec, there's going to be more people available to fill shifts and to assist, the police and fire and the public than we have now. We're chasing our tail with the overtime.
Thanks, Chief.
One other question, Mike. So how come we pay $51,000 a year if we're not joined yet?
Well, we are part of REC. We're working with them as last year. There was the deputy and the assistant, and then the expenses that they have, health insurance.
So $51,000 worth of services we're getting out of them.
Right.
Nothing so far.
Well,
looking at $51,000. That's a lot of money for not really joining.
well, the director right now is working obviously on getting the grants to pay for the construction and working on the bids for the construction, the architects, everything else.
So none of that construction has even started?
No, they're still, they just recently bought the building, the property and the building for $10. And the way the construction's going to be financed is through temporary notes, and we're going to be reimbursed from the 911 emergency grants, so much per year. So that right now, it's not projected that we'll have to go out and do any permanent borrowing at all. The 911 grants, they've agreed that that's the way to go, and they will fund so much a year.
And is the renovations such that there's plenty of time before July 2020 that this is going to
Yeah.
be done?
Yeah, the building, it's a sound building, so it's really interior renovations for the most part. And the antennas sound and any, all the equipment they've got to set up inside.
No, there's four member towns now.
Right.
And as I understand, it's kind of a plan maybe to add additional towns?
There have been towns that have contacted us, and there's enough room in the center that we could add some towns, which would help lower our costs if it's spread out over 5 or 6 towns. Next is library. And the recommendation for the library is $459,542. I've met with the library director. You know, the library presented something to you earlier, and I know that they were looking at trying to boost salaries to a competitive level. Unfortunately, we just don't have the money to do that as much as they had hoped. And with this budget that I'm proposing, I've met with Lee, and she's indicated that they would be able to stay open the 45 hours with this. They would be tight on their supplies, their materials, and, you know, they have their supplemental budget, but there's only so much money that they have available out of that. So it will be tight for them, but this would allow them to be open the 45 hours. You know, obviously, one of the issues the library has is they have a lot of staff people that are at or near minimum wage, and as the minimum wage goes up $1 a year, they have to move with it. One thing not part of this that I was surprised to see, I didn't even know this was part of the minimum wage. I was looking at it the other day, that as the goal is by 2023, I believe it is, to be at $15 an hour. But at the same time, they're lowering what you have to pay people on Sundays and holidays so that there will be no overtime pay under the minimum wage law for Sundays and holidays for people. I didn't even know that, but just something I was surprised to see. But I know that Lee is here if you have any questions. I know that we're open a lot less hours than other towns, but this will at least get us to 45 and meet that mandate that's coming.
So did all the, short of any contractual or whatever raises, anything beyond that was cut out, or are there still raises?
Well, with my suggestion, the raises would be down in the 3% top range.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions?
Did you want to say anything?
Yeah.
Of course.
Lee's got a couple of things to talk about, but we want to let you know that the budget you're going to give us, we're going to work with, as we always do. They put a lot of hours in. They put more hours in than they really should, and we're concerned with that. We have to take out a certain amount of money out of the endowment every year, part of the regulations that we have. With the money that you're giving us to pay for the supplemental side, we're going to have to take out more than what they originally want to give us. We already took 75 out of the endowment to pay for the HVAC stuff that you didn't cover and the alarm system and some other things. We're going to have to take another 40 out just to cover what you won't cover us with the salaries and stuff because of the other things that we're required to pay for.
So, as you know, our income is down, so our supplemental income is lower. You know, we did away with a lot of things that were having, like the tutoring fee or having the DVD drop, stuff like that. And our costs are up, the building costs are up. So we may have to come back in the fall, look for more money for materials, because that's where, in 2008, this budget, this $459,000, is about what we had in 2008. And so, and this is the 2020 budget, so.
But with all the renovations, shouldn't the cost of running this building be less?
Eventually, right now, we're still paying for, you know, we prorated things, so we have like this, the new, and we're working through the kinks with the new HVAC system, the new fire alarm system, as I was just talking to the deputy. So it's just a nightmare getting all this stuff set, but once everything is all set, we have new electrical, that's all LED, we have, hopefully, everything will, our electrical and our gas and everything will go down, but
I mean, with the LED system we put in, every light in the building and in the parking lot's LED. So our kilowatt hours, is down, but the electric company keep raising their rates. So we're not seeing that much of an impact as far as the bottom dollar value of what we have to pay every month. And we're just trying to make, the best we can out of this. We're going to be open 12% more hours, and the budget is a 12% increase. So we're trying to do the best we can with the people that we have. We don't want to lose them, so we're
yeah.
doing whatever we can to
And
make them happy.
after a full year of being open 45 hours, we will get 12.5% more in state aid too, so.
Right.
But it takes a full year of doing that.
Now, all the mechanical work is done now with the HVAC system,
Yeah,
everything.
I invite you to come see it. It's amazing.
Now, how did it fall within budget?
We had to do some extra work per the building department, fireproof a room and kind of segregate some things, and then we had a few more things per the fire department. So we're up about 45,000 over, and we didn't really expect part of that as far as the building, because we were, like I said, the building was 35 years old. Some of the older codes weren't met when we had to redo some of the new stuff. So
And we didn't know we'd have to replace the fire alarm panel too. So within this past year, we replaced the burglar alarm system and the fire alarm system. So, and the LED and the HVAC.
Right. And being a
It's never
public building,
easy.
we need to keep up. We need to be right on top of that.
So our AMI, our appropriated municipal income is still far less than any of the communities, which I gave you last time. So ours is $19.97, and they range from that. Ours is like the lowest, and it goes all the way up to $82.68 for a library. So we're doing a lot for a little. But
Yeah,
we
but you
appreciate your
realize we
support.
also gave you 3 times what every other department got.
Hmm?
We gave you 3 times
No,
more than
no,
any
that's
other
in order
department.
to.
I understand what you're saying. We always like to repair to other towns,
Yep.
I'm sure
It's tough to repair to
I'm
other
sure
towns.
Wellesley
It's
is
just-
higher than us too, and Lincoln and Concord. They're probably all higher than us.
Oh, yeah. I just compare to the neighboring ones. So, so,
Yeah. But like you said, we're thankful for what you can do, and we're going to make it work. But we're hoping that in the fall, we can come back and see what can be done,
for materials.
just like everybody else. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And the next budget is the school budget, and the recommendation is $29,622,648. As a result, this is a higher number than previously presented, because as a result of the last cherry sheet estimate numbers, we were able to increase what we propose for the school department.
And the 230, actually, it's probably more, no, $230,000 difference between what was asked and what's recommended, everybody's okay with?
I think I'd go that far.
That was a loaded question.
I don't think okay is the right word.
I don't think that's the right word.
What are we losing at that,
Right.
at that?
So, as you recall, I presented a mandates budget and a general ed and a total. We took that, we brought it to a level services budget of 5.81%, of which 3.70%, or $1,055,007, is in mandates, $602,254 is in general education. So if you look at the increase, which I believe is $1,111,918, if you take that from the $1,055,007 in mandates, that means I'm moving $56,911 into general education, which means I have a shortfall in general ed of $545,343. We'll be, going into the fall, looking for funds in terms of The transportation bid is out. It's due tomorrow at 11. So we'll have some more information. We have $75,000 in this budget, but that could be a bigger number than 75. Maybe it'll be better. So we would have to cut less. Materials and supplies, we've allocated funding for tuitions. But again, you know how that plays out. This is a educated guess based on 5 years. That's what I usually do, is look out 5 years. As you remember, last year, $293,000 came at town meeting because of tuitions, because we had an $800,000 plus on that line item. So that's where we stand. After you vote tonight, then the school committee will make decisions on where the 545 comes from. But it'll be general education line items.
Joe would be upset if I didn't ask at least one question. School choice money?
Yes, so we're using in this budget $730,000 of our school choice, which allocates the 660 in the cherry sheet and another 100 and something thousand that we have. And right now, that's conservative because I'm concerned about end of year costs for us. You have an article for the end of year as well, supplemental, because of my biggest headache this year has been flu season with staff, maternity leaves, and long-term illnesses. That's been a significant hit for us this year with staffing. But we are using it as presented.
I did my one question. We're good.
So how many of the surrounding towns have school choice?
Currently, Taunton does, North Attleboro just with staff, but are considering it. Attleboro just came out. I just had a discussion with them the other day. That will probably could become our competitor, simply because they're going to be opening up a brand-new building with vocational programs at a cost to the town, potentially, not like a traditional vocational school, but where their student could go there for actually less funding. They're utilizing, it's my understanding, I don't want to speak for Superintendent Sawyer there, but it's my understanding not only the competition model, which is something that I talked about when I came here 6 years ago, but also the idea of filling in seats for the purposes of driving down class sizes. Remember, they're very different from us. They're a city. Cities are, you can't even compare. We are not comparable to Attleboro and Taunton at all, demographically and or socioeconomically, and or in service delivery or service needs. It's just a whole different system. The difference is, for us, is our numbers in terms of some of those outliers are just smaller, but they're still there. Mansfield had a discussion last year. Right now, they're seeing a dip in enrollment, so I think you're going to see a lot of school choice. There's also a bill filed by Representative Tarr in the North Shore to increase it from 5,000 to 6,500, which with the supports for 504s and special ed could bring that total. You'll see our numbers are over 6,000 on average, even though it's supposed to be 5,000. That's just because for certain students we're getting a little bit more because of service delivery. But so that's a situation as well. That also hurts us, right? Because we do have some students who choice out, not including the charter. We did see a decline in enrollment from last year's charter school enrollment to actual, because it was up 6, and it was actually at 98. It was down 8. So when you funded 106 through the cherry sheet, everybody was complaining about what happened. We actually found out that after the year was done. We're also at 98 students. We are under 100 for the first time in the history of the district when it comes to enrollment, even though they opened up 400 seats. Again, love the competition. I don't like the model of financing. In terms of this budget includes over $1 million worth of transportations. Theirs doesn't. Ours is 18.5% special ed. They're at 9% special ed. These are just totally, again, apples to apples comparisons, not to say that one is better than the other, but it drives this budget significantly higher, as you know, when you're talking about those two issues alone.
Just on school choice, you've mentioned a couple times that that a driver for a district would be seeing a drop in enrollment.
Yep.
Now, I know Mansfield discussed it quite a bit, and they, I guess, probably put it on hold.
Correct.
So what is there other,
it's the competition. I think it's competition. The fact of the matter is, this area is known for, it's got at least one outstanding if not 2 or 3 outstanding private schools. It's got vocational education that's some of the best in the entire country, not including just Massachusetts. Southeastern's a fantastic institution. Our Aggie is competitive, about to open up, rebuild a $100 million campus that's costing us $70,000 to $100,000 in budget for the town over the next 20 years, not including your yearly charge. And then there's the school choice thing in terms of just, parents having choice to go. We have parents who love to come to Norton and are happy to be here, and we have parents who are deciding to go elsewhere. I think this is the new wave of quote, I think the word traditional public education, I think you can start eliminating the word traditional. I think it's gone. I mean, I'm 50, and in my day, you might have taken the test for the private school, and more than likely you were going to your traditional school. A couple of kids would go to Severian to play hockey or something, but that was about it. I'm sorry? I'm sorry, BC High. I'm sorry, as the acting town manager, I forgot where I went to school. But so I think it's the change. And so what happens is, and I think if you spoke to your realtors, and I would tell you right now, you guys can't keep a house on the market. You can't keep an eye on them. I got a teacher right now who works for us who has gone to 6 open houses in 3 weeks. And last time in town, she put the full offer on the house, and she lost 15 minutes later. That's good for you long term. Short term, it's a bump in the road. Long term, it's a fantastic thing. We'll see the benefits of it as a community.
Sure. Dr. Bayana, what's the cost of educating a student today?
Well, you have to go based on, the way I like to present it is you got to go with the last absolutely fully audited numbers, right? So that's going to run us about 13.4, 13.6 from 2 years ago. You'll see that number climb. That's about, off the top of my head, I think it's $1,646 less than the state average for that year.
Okay. And then if we're getting 5,000, the difference between our school choice of 5,000 and the 13.4.
Right.
Is that the reimbursement from the state that makes?
No, the reimbursement is based on a calculation of no more than $5,000 allocated to school choice, except for those students where we put in for each individual student any category around specialized services. Okay. Then it bumps up to 5,000.
Okay, but if we're getting 5 and
Yep.
it's costing us 13.4, are we eating that?
No, you're not eating it, because you want to think of it this way. If I'm on an airline ticket tomorrow morning and not all the seats are full, am I losing money because the seats weren't full, or am I gaining money because I sell it for half the cost? That's one way to look at it.
It is.
The scenario that always comes down to for us is, because we're so small, very different from a city, is we have 112 students bringing in $660,000, which is basically allowed for 2,500 students to have the technology that has made us, to be quite honest, a district that parents and staff, and I mean, we're constantly having people in to look at how we're doing it. I can assure you right now, we wouldn't have a single one-to-one initiative in our district. We wouldn't have the curriculum, because the cuts I've had to make on the other side haven't allowed for us to do that. So we've utilized, and I think it's also important, it's not like we have 35 kids in one grade. I want to be very, if you had 35 kids in one grade at 5,000, you could say, well, hey, let's bring down, school choice can now be used to bring down the class size. So let's take the 28 at the high school and make it 24, because we can hire 2 teachers now. That's not where we are with school choice. I think our biggest group is 11 in one grade. Our biggest school with school choice is total 6 to 8 is 24. And that's actually a bump from 2 years ago, where we only had 6 kids total in the middle school. That's where we see a slight bump, and then we see a stable at the high school. We're only averaging 11, 12 students at the high school. The market that we're looking at now is international, because that brings in 2 things. A tuition that we set, school committee sets, and if they live in town, Chapter 70, and there's a payment that goes to the family that's hosting the child. Not our money. That's a third-party process. Doesn't have anything to do with the school department. So in that particular case, to take your question of losing, that's where you're really gaining, because you're getting the full 10 from the state, and you're getting whatever your tuition costs. In our case, it's 12.4 and 14.2. 14.2 if they're trying to earn a Norton High School diploma, they can only be a senior. These are outstanding international students who want a public school diploma, so they can apply as a high school student in Norton High School to the colleges and universities nationally.
Right. And then, in a process, when you go through, so if you have a non-budgeted position that you're reviewing, it's not in the budget one year, you go through and you vet that process.
Yep.
You vet that position.
Yep.
How does that work? And then the following year, that becomes now a level service position.
Right. So,
So how does
so
that
in last year's case, as an example, I cut an administrative position. I had an assistant sped director position that we'd had for 2 years. And in FY19, we completely cut the position. Because when we went to level services and we were cutting, I can't remember, I don't want to say a number, whatever hundreds of thousands we were cutting last year, I made a decision to go after 1 administrators, 6.1 teachers, and the entire food services department. So the level services was we couldn't get there. Same situation here at 545 short. I'll have to go back to the school committee and show them where are we taking 545 from, including personnel. So when we look at our personnel and mandates, for example, we're looking at where are people on the grid, the scale, so lanes and steps. The percentage increase to that, so we just make a new grid and move everybody over. We typically allocate $40,000 because there's mid-year shifts that can take place at any point during the year because of the budget, the way the contract reads. And then everything else is just a matter of level services. I think the chief explained it perfectly. If the cost this year for all of this is 5.8% more, that's exactly what it is. It's just going to keep what you have. If I may, to answer a little bit, I think of maybe what you're trying to dig into a little bit, how do I get maybe the new position? We went through this last year, and the computer science was the perfect example. We had a science teacher who decided to leave, and the principal at the time said, this is the time, we're not going to get the money. So it was literally a flip. If you see some position, I may cut an elementary position because the enrollment in that grade is going to be 20 students per class. If I kept the extra teacher, it'd be 15 per class. I'm like that. Well, that's not fair to the system, if you will. It might be great for kids, but it's not good for the system. So what I might do there is lay off that teacher, but because the money's budgeted, move the position to the high school in a position that I did need in order to bring the class size down or start a new program.
All right. And is there any different weighting between a teaching position and an admin type position?
No. Typically, the biggest admin positions that we did have been, we brought back, we went from a supervisor to a director of facilities. We went from no director of instructional tech back to, that's probably the biggest one. We've had title changes, but not new positions. Okay. Director of guidance was there. It's now director of counseling and social emotional learning, and that's a position that's 12 months out of the high school, but also services K to 12, K to 8, I should say, besides being at the high school. The director of curriculum instruction professional development was moved, as per my recommendation, to assistant superintendent. That became literally a transition process of down the road if things happen. The finance director has been here, the business manager has been here before I was here. I know there was a time that there wasn't, but the prior superintendent had hired that position. The dean of students at the Hay is a teaching position. It's not an administrative position. It belongs to the teaching unit. It doesn't supervise in a day-to-day basis. It's more of a student discipline position. The high school's always had 2, the middle school's always had 2. The JCS has the split early childhood assistant principal, and that's because it has 500 kids in it, and early childhood is at 103 students. We've always been at 70, 75. If you remember, I took some heat during the override year because I was being asked, why do I need this position? A year and a half later, I was right.
Thank you.
Okay. One more, athletic director. That was changed in the transfer of my first year because it used to be a stipend position, and that's a full-time 202-day position. Are you the superintendent or the town manager?
While you're here, I heard you say you're 50 years old, so I don't want you to have to go back and forth. So,
It's like stand-up comedy at Monday Night FinCom.
there's also a special town meeting article. We may have talked about it briefly before, and this is an article to allow goods and services contracts in excess of 3 years. So I don't know, while Joe's here, I don't know if anyone has any questions on that.
Yeah, and the big one for us is the transportation. I just want to be clear. We open contract bids tomorrow, but we can't communicate until town meeting on if, in fact, you folks decide to support the article and town meeting does because of the legality process. So we'll know more of that later on. course, if you vote it down, then we'll know about it sooner. If you vote it up and it goes to town meeting, then. But the other part of it is that Mike and I have been working on the issue of, one of the things that we see is that our buildings, some of our buildings are getting older. And so having long-term, the same technician, the same electrician, the same plumber is a very beneficial thing to both sides, cost-wise, but also they get to know our buildings more. Then every 3 years, you're going out for bid again. I mean, we had the same plumber, Mr. Rich, for, I can't remember how many years, but at least the 5 of the 6 years I was here before he passed, and then we almost tripled our hourly rate. So can't thank him enough for the work that he supported us with, but he also knew our buildings. That was key, you know. When we got here, just as a side story, we had a situation with one of our HVAC systems, and literally the company that was working with us, I won't state the name to be professional, but we had a guidebook, somebody going through trying to fix the system. You know, we went out to somebody that knew our systems better. You're not paying for teaching. I mean, I don't mind that, you know, as an educator, but not at $90 an hour.
Aaron?
Dr. Bannock, just at the risk of to get this in before we let you just wander off with $500,000 general education shortfall in your budget, without having discussed that. What does that mean? I mean, it sounds like a large number, and I'm wondering what, I know you said you'd have to take that to the school committee to discuss how you would handle that.
Sure.
But can you give me some sort of sense as to the level of impact that has and the severity of that situation for you?
Okay, so, I mean, the best way to try to, you know, quarterback this going into a game, you know, and trying to figure it out is, I start with non-personnel first. Is there a line item somewhere? So right off the bat, I'm gonna suggest that we have to cut X more in a line item, whatever that may be. A software program that we use administratively for $13,000, or, although we cut a lot of those, or a professional development agreement that we have with a third party for $8,000. I'll penny pinch those out. Those are direct services, but they might be to the adults and not to the students per se. We'll look at, you know, things like if we're going to one-to-one in the 12th grade next year, we may put it off for a year. We may not have it happening in the earlier grades. We'll start with those things that are important to teaching and learning and make it inconsistent from school to school, but it is what it is. And then we'll go after personnel. I think the big discussion the school committee is going to have is how this transportation bid comes in. They've requested a K-6 only busing, no choice for pay and ride. Only do the 2 mile maximum, K-6. That means no student in 7 through 12 would be provided transportation at all, and no students in K-6 under 2 miles would be provided transportation. And that would have not a huge six-figure loss, because remember, you got pay coming in about $180,000, you got about $160,000 to the good for us, but that's $160,000 off of $500,000. That's better than a 10,000, another 5, another 4. And then it'll be personnel. You know, if I had to give you a number, it'd probably be in the vicinity of 7. And that will be, predominantly, it'd probably be, if I had to guess, elementary and secondary. You're probably looking right now at more elementary, secondary. The biggest extreme decision would be to eliminate the middle school as a middle school and go to a junior high philosophy. Bad move. Bad move. What that means is your high school, your middle school becomes a high school. Kids are no longer in teams. They're no longer looked at upon teams. You know, the concern we have there is special education delivery and SAL stuff, but that's the most extreme cut that we would look at.
Amy?
Do you have any thoughts or studies or information on what the impact on our truancy rates would be if you cut busing for grades 7 through 12?
It would go up.
Well, clearly.
Yeah, most of the studies are coming out of rural areas in the inner city. You don't see a lot of studies out of the suburbs. But I would say, I know for a fact the city studies and the rural studies that have done this in the Midwest, for example, have seen drastic increases, which, by the way, in Massachusetts, truancy will put you as a not meeting services district, which will put you under underperforming. That's one category for all elementary schools, middle school, and the high school. So if your school becomes low performing because of truancy, then you're under state watch. Then your budget process in year 2 changes. I will then have a mandated budget for a certain school because they're not meeting that test goal. Again, these are the extremes of those situations. We already see some, I just sent out over 20 letters to families stating your child's already been out more than 10 days. Again, some of it we understand is things like the flu season, which really have hit us hard. We know it with the adults, but also the kids. But yes, there are, I mean, besides giving you a general, I don't have any study in front of me that I've looked at, except my concern is always going to be how does truancy affect overall school, state scores, which then put us under potentially state warning, state support in terms of no money support, by the way, just them telling you how you have to spend your funding. It becomes a mandate. We don't want another mandate. We already have big ones as it is. Yes?
Just to follow up what you said earlier about the busing, who writes the RFP? I don't understand that.
We do, in terms of...
And then they come back and say, well, we don't want...
No. We write the RFP based upon options. Busing, K-12 with pay and ride, so on and so
You
forth.
mentioned the vendor was reluctant to...
Yeah, they're going to be reluctant because it's a cost to their pocket. So there's a potentially that they could say, I'm used to getting $1 million out of you. Now you're only going to bust K-6. I'm only going to get 350 or 400,000. They might say, well, guess what? I'm coming in at 650.
Whoa.
So we actually may not see the savings that you actually think. The RFP is written as options for us, so that the school committee can say, what are my options and what's the cost savings? Are there any? We can't increase the fees. We're at $350. It's grotesque. So that's not an option to look at.
That's what I'm saying. Why?
So the only option is to look at eliminating busing. Don't provide the option. Only bus K-6, 2+ miles. So we'll know that we have, let's just say 2+ miles for the LGN, the JCS, and it would be the Hay and 1 grade only at the middle school, grade 6. It's 800 students. So we need 10 buses instead of 16 buses. So now I'm not paying for 6 buses. So I'm not paying X number of dollars. That's the process.
So you'd be busing 800 students?
I'm using that, I don't have the number off the top of my head, so I'm using a
Roughly.
fictitious number.
And so 1,000, 1,500 would have to find their own way to school?
Correct.
How does that impact
Grossly impacts.
traffic and that kind of
Not good
stuff?
at all, and it's already not good.
Well, I would assume that then you're gonna have more police details because the intersections are gonna be a mess.
Right now, there are no police details. Certainly the traffic is a nightmare, in particular in front of the Yale School and the middle school. The Yale School in particular, there was one day, maybe a couple days, but I only called the superintendent once on it. And when, they let the buses out one way and the parents are coming out the other way and there's a log jam here. And I said, this is ridiculous, but it kind of is what it is at this point. The traffic in the center of town is just, I'm not quite as old as the superintendent, but but the road 123 was not built to sustain the traffic it's entailing right now.
And it's only going to get better when they rip up the center of it.
Well, that's the issue.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
And is there an issue if you have all those walkers?
Sure.
Assuming we have walkers without sidewalks.
Sure.
Well,
You have that now. Yeah.
and I could happily
Just- you're
speak
gonna have
from
more.
personal experience. I would love to say that my children could ride their bikes to the middle school, but there are no bike lanes or sidewalks on Oak Street or North Worcester Street.
Dangerous.
Right.
So it would be exceptionally foolish for me to allow my children to ride their bicycles to school on those 2 roads.
Especially north.
But I'm not sure how I would maintain my position as a full-time employee if I have to start driving my 7th grader to school every morning and afternoon next year.
There are definitely a lot of parents that are not taking the busing route anymore. we noticed that at least this year in particular, there's a lot more people that are driving
Yeah.
their kids to school.
Because they don't want to pay the fee.
They don't want to pay.
So if they can swing making the drop off and pick up, but I can tell you with a child at the middle school and a child at the Yale, I've done it one time this school year, and it was a 45-minute round trip from my garage to the Yale to the middle school and back. 45 minutes.
I can go quicker from the Dunkin' Donuts on this side of town to my house in Stoughton, 14 miles, quicker than go from my office to the middle school during the start of the school day or release.
Which I've done that route walk from there to there many times.
Wish I could join you, but I'm getting old. So I've been told.
This isn't the place for it, but there is, you know, there needs to be some discussion about a second egress, a better egress for the middle school, and, you know, discussing what we could possibly do at the Yelp school at some point in time. So.
And, you know, yeah, I'll put it out on the table. These are the types of issues that they're one-time costs, but they're not one-time costs, right? Because the problem is, in 2007, we went to a fee system, and we cut back and so on. So some of you were parents then, so you know what I'm talking about. And what's happening is, this is no different for us, or any more different for the school department than when a taxpayer gets told that their trash is no longer getting picked up and they have to go to you know, track their own individual. The issue is that everybody believes that $350 should actually pay for my child being able to take the bus to school, no problem. I just want to be mindful that that's less than $2 a day. I'm not sure where you can get any ride anywhere for less than $2 a day. But it is $350. You know, it is $350. So when you have that, and then you have a second child, and there's no family cap, that's $700. And if they're at the middle school, at the high school, it's $350 per sport. If they each play, and you know this game, you've heard this before. So, and I don't know how we could charge more. We put a plan today, Matt, not today, before vacation, I asked Matt to put some numbers together about cutting back our transportation fee. Go from $350 to $300 with some type of a family cap. Well, now we have to find another $30,000 in this budget that we don't have. For the athletic fee, we'd have to go out and find another $20,000 to take it to something more reasonable. Instead of $350, maybe $350, $275, $200. At least that gives families something, especially if they have multiple children. And I say this as a parent, where are our kids going after school? Especially middle grades and high school. Where are they going? They're going to a ball field, or they're not going to a ball field. And we all know that long-term, if we have less and less kids participating, whatever that is, the advisory, don't forget, advisory positions, those kids are paying, hey, welcome to the National Honor Society. You're a great student. Thanks for your $50. They have to pay a membership fee that goes to offset the cost of a $1,700 stipend for an advisor. Again, I hope that these are the type of discussions that if it is a good year with free cash in the fall, we can say, you know what, let's toss some money in towards the transportation. You know, if tonight I left here with more money than Mike and I have been tossing around some numbers, we're not necessarily in agreement what those numbers should be for the school department in the fall, but it's a starting point. And I appreciate that he's willing to have that discussion. And we appreciate that the budget's come to 3.9. That's not where it was. But we also cut an entire department last year. We took that money from the town meeting, if you remember. You know, my goal is not to go to town meeting this year with any of that. That's one of my goals. I can't speak for the school committee. They're the elected board of the town, but it's to, let's go in and let's see if we can have some understanding of what free cash is going to look like and say, can we stop some people from losing jobs, or can we offset the cost or put it into the transportation budget so that we can tell parents we're not going to eliminate busing and still charge it $350.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Alrighty. Where are we?
We're done with the budgets, so it's a matter of voting And the first one discussed was the police department. Under personnel services, $3,376,078. And under charges and expenditures, $207,710. Total budget of $3,583,788.
Mr. Chairman, how would you like us to do it? Do you want to keep the same two people doing it to make it easier for the secretary?
Yeah, if we can.
And I'll bite the bullet until it gets too late. No, bedtime.
Aaron?
We'll have an opportunity to revisit all this once we've gone through these?
Sure.
Yeah,
Or if,
yeah.
or if we want to be talking about where we're allocating the funds that we have, is now the time to be having that conversation?
I'll do it either way. We can
Revisit any article.
revisit anything anytime, well, not any time, but we can revisit it. Or, if we want to sit here and discuss that.
Yep.
Way back when we put in, when the business of holding a public hearing was put in place, the idea was that we would have a budget to present at the public hearing, but we would reconsider that budget after the public hearing, supposedly because the public would have a lot of things to say. Well, we know what has generally happened at these public hearings.
Nobody shows up.
That we have. But nonetheless, that was the theory, that we would reconsider, we could reconsider again after the public hearing. And what it has boiled down to over the years is that we have sort of said, well, we can reconsider, at least, in shifting amounts, not in adding amounts necessarily, if we don't have any, we gotta have a balanced budget. Up to the time when we have to put our report together and go to print.
Right.
After that, that's what we've got. So I think we could go ahead and do this, and I would certainly support the idea that if next week, after we've had our budget hearing, or as things develop in the next couple of weeks before we have to go to print, in a sense, things need to be changed, or people think they should be changed, we should
Can
consider them.
revisit them at any time.
And
Just make a motion to revisit an article, well, both budget, any article.
Yeah,
That's,
I'm wondering if we as a board or as a committee are going to have an opportunity to sort of look at everything that's in front of us.
well, you're
I
going to
think
get
one of
that,
the-
and after the public hearing, you'll have whatever's in front of you.
we basically.
If we do
got-
this tonight, you got everything that's in
Well,
front.
we do it piecemeal,
Yeah,
you
what
know.
I'm saying is, once you finish it, you've got it all. There isn't any, there's only so many departments, and there's almost so much money.
Right,
So, the only thing we can't do is overrun.
right,
It's got to be balanced.
absolutely.
And our raise and appropriate has got to include whatever monies we put for raise and appropriate to warrant articles.
Yeah.
So we got that to throw into the mix as well. But I think we can, I think we should go ahead and do what we've done with almost all of the budgets and get a number that we're starting with, that we've approved to get a balanced budget. And if we feel we need to make changes, particularly after the so-called public hearing,
We can do that.
we can do that. Or if people just want to, for any reason, want to propose a change, it's a sort of a change of, we take it from, we want to do it to here, we got to take it from there kind
Right.
of proposal. Because the one thing you can't do is propose beyond what the revenue estimates say we're going to get. And their estimates too right now, so that's where we're at.
Sort of go on with that, I'd almost state, if you have ideas, are they to the point of being formulated that I want to take X from this guy and move it over to this guy? Or is it kind of in theory?
It is in theory.
I'd
No,
almost,
somewhat.
I'd almost
So,
recommend to get it a
Yeah, I'll
little
wait till
more,
after the public hearing.
so then we can debate
Right.
numbers and not just
Specifics.
theoretically
Yeah.
pie in the sky type thing.
Right.
Steve?
No, but I was going to ask about the revenue projections.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just
Paul?
want to say that it is, I think that the town manager in the last 2 or 3 years has done an incredible job putting together a balanced budget that satisfies no one. And yet that satisfies everybody in a different sense of the term. And I think what we should do is finish what we've been doing and get a budget approved. And then if we can look at it or somebody wants to make changes, those changes have got to be very concrete in how they're proposed and where the money comes from. And we'll have time to do that. So my suggestion is we do these budgets
Finish up these
tonight.
budgets and get 'em
And then we've got a base to work from.
I guess the only other, well, my opinion is the only other thing I would ask is if you get to a concrete, I want to go from this here to this over here.
Yep.
That perhaps, I get the heads up, so I can give Mike the heads up that maybe some of the impacted budgets can have a say.
You know that at any point, there's $85,000
Paul.
we could put someplace and we didn't put it.
Paul, we're gonna move that on. When are you getting your eyes done?
Next Monday.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come next
I-
Monday and
I-
be here with a shield over.
All right.
I think it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make sure that this opportunity wasn't slipping by.
No, that's
Appreciate it.
It's 90 this year, Paul.
86.
It's like snow, you can't go backwards. You can't do it.
That's right. If you're ready, Mr. Chairman,
I'm ready.
We'll go through the. Mr. Chairman, I recommend, the committee recommends, Department 210, Personal Services, $3,376,078. I don't think we have to vote we have to vote the total, right? We have to vote
Personal
every one.
services and charges and expenditures, just the total.
Just the total,
in
that's what I thought.
each department.
And for charges and expenses, $207,710, giving us a total of $3,583,788.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for Department 210, Police Department, total budget of $3,583,788. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor? Unanimous?
Under Fire Department, Personnel Services, $3,744,696, and under Charges and Expenditures, $185,800, for a total budget of $3,930,496.
Mr. Chairman, I move for Department 220, Personal Services, $3,744,696. And for Charges and Expenses, $185,800, with a total budget of $3,930,496.
Second.
Motion and a second for Department 220, Fire Department, total budget $3,930,496. Any further discussion? Paul?
This has nothing to do with the figure. I would just like to put it in parenthetically. I would like to see something I've mentioned here before, that we no longer refer to this as the fire department. It should be either fire and rescue or fire and ambulance. You heard tonight, 80% of their service of what they do
Ambulance.
is, and that's why we have
Ambulance and
paramedics
fire,
and everything else. I think it's misnamed. We can deal with that another time, but I just want to stick it in there.
You're on the record.
On the record. Mike, that's up to you. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Unanimous?
Emergency medical services, charges and expenditures, $113,900.
Mr. Chairman,
Tom?
I'd like to recommend for Emergency Services Department 230, $113,900.
Motion and a second for Department 230, Emergency Medical Services, total budget of $113,900. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous?
Under emergency planning, charges and expenditures, $7,150.
Mr. Chairman,
Tom?
under Emergency Planning 240, charges and expenses, I recommend $7,150.
Motion and a second for Department 240, Emergency Planning, total budget $7,150. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Unanimous?
Under Communications Center, 290, Personnel Services, 510, $626,077. Assessment, 560, $51,000. And charges and expenditures, 570, $142,450, for a total department budget of $819,527.
Mr. Chairman,
Tom?
Communications Center Department 290, Personal Services, $626,077. Assessment, $51,000. Charges and expenses, $142,450, with a total budget of $819,527.
Motion and a second for Department 290 Communications Center. Total budget, $819,527. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Unanimous?
Under School Department, 300, $29,622,648.
Yeah, we only move one number, right?
Right.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, School Department 300, $29,622,648.
Motion and a second for Department 300, School Department, total budget $29,622,648. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Unanimous?
Under Library, $459,542.
Mr. Chairman,
Tom?
under Library Department 610, $459,542.
Motion and a second for Department 610 Library, total budget $459,542. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Unanimous?
Okay. Want to do a couple easy articles?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Let's do Article 21, OPEB. I want to make
Said easy.
Paul feel good. I won't go talk through him at the fall town meeting, but for this town meeting, I recommend 0. And so I thought maybe Paul could make that motion.
Where are we? Where is it?
21,
Article 21, OPEB funding.
20 on it.
Annual.
That's 21 on the annual.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me get to the score sheet. I don't just go to the score sheet. The articles are too
What are
confusing.
you recommending?
I'm
Where's-
recommending 0.
What? Special.
We do it on the phone.
We usually do it in the fall, so I'll
That's right.
recommend 0 now.
Yeah.
Can we do negative?
Very
good. Here we go.
If you were moving it now, I would, after our meeting, I would at least try to make, after our public hearing, after that meeting, I would try to make a motion to
But you're not-
move it elsewhere.
But you won't be here because you'll be recovering from other than eye surgery. Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman,
Well, I'll come pick you
Tom?
up.
I move that we recommend OPEB funding Article number 21 at 0.
Or no action.
Or no action, that's even better. I'm sorry, I recall that. No action.
Paul, was that a second?
Yes,
You sure?
yes.
No action? Sure.
Motion and a second for Article 21 of the annual town meeting, no action. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Unanimous?
In Article 22, stabilization fund, I'd also recommend no action.
Mr. Chairman,
Tom?
Article 22, stabilization fund, no action.
Second.
Motion and a second on Article 22 of the annual town meeting. Stabilization fund, no action. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous?
Want to just wait to the next meeting for the articles? I think it'd be,
What do we have
Yeah.
for Wednesday? Is there a heavy?
Public hearing.
just the article, public hearing and the articles, so
Yeah.
probably a good
And
meeting
our
to do it.
discussion, as Aaron recommended,
Yeah.
the discussion after the meeting on looking at the numbers, right?
Wait till the next meeting.
Thank you, Tom.
All right?
I'm gonna ask, can I ask my question now? on
Yep.
budget?
Go ahead.
Mike,
Oh, yeah.
is it possible to get a budget versus actual as of March 31st for our revenue?
Yeah, I'm trying to think, yeah, it should be coming out, this is April, you didn't get
For
that
March?
yet?
We got our expense,
Yeah,
but this is the income.
oh, sure, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll bring that Wednesday.
Have you noticed any peaks in any of that permits?
The building's doing good, the inspection
Yep.
is doing good. And the auto excise
Target.
is up, and that's why for our proposed budget for next year, we planned on, we increased that by like $500,000, I think. So most of the things are doing well. So I'll bring that next meeting and you can see it.
Perfect, thank you.
Aaron?
Seems like in the past few years, auto excise has just been skyrocketing every year.
Car prices.
Where is that
Paid
coming
for,
from?
Car prices.
Waste management.
New cars,
Paid for.
people,
That project.
you know, when everything went down in 2008, people weren't buying any cars, and then when it finally turned around the last few years, people have had to go out and buy cars.
The East Main apartment project.
Yeah, that's a lot too, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot.
Also, the Penske
And
Yeah, the other- what's the other?
facility.
Penske and Waste Management,
Waste management.
they have all new, when they came in, they
Speed?
brought in all new natural gas vehicles, so they're worth a lot.
What else is down there? Spears? Is that a new building?
Spears Manufacturing is on
What do they do?
Southwester. They're a specialty pipe manufacturer, specialty pipe fittings and things like that. They manufacture them in there. That was an amazing building and the way it was built.
Big, okay.
And I didn't realize until they came to the selectmen's meeting a couple months ago, T-Mobile, that T-Mobile facility on Commerce Way, that's the hub for all of New England for T-Mobile. So I'll bring that next week, Wednesday.
Okay. Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Do we have to do with this? Ask them to
Oh, when do we have to? When do we have to?
I was asking Bill the other day.
Because we have to give him the information to put in.
Yeah, we probably have to wait for,
Oh, it'll be probably, maybe the Monday after.
Yeah.
A week from today.
Mike, when is the Finance Committee report due?
Let me see if I brought that timeline with
Yeah,
me.
it was a timeline.
Yeah.
We had to have it. I don't have it either.
Pat, is there any minutes?
Oh,
One set, two sets?
6?
That's hike.
Let's do 2 or 3.
I got,
New or old?
I got some short
Let's go-
ones.
Actually, get rid of the old.
All right.
Those will be easier because no one's gonna
No one's
remember.
gonna remember what.
2 old ones.
Exactly.
And what we said.
Awesome, thank you. Did anyone read that one?
No, they're just getting it now.
Okay, we'll have to get copies.
Oh, the timeline?
Oh, I made copies for
Okay.
everybody.
Oh, you did?
Everybody's
I'll
got
nerd
copies.
out with you because I did
I got a
the
set.
same thing like 2 weeks ago.
Well, there's one set then.
Walter's got a set. Thank you, and thank you.
The increase percents.
I appreciate it a lot.
All right. There you go. Both sides, too.
This is the one before the town.
Yeah, the other
I
day.
wasn't here. That's right.
Doing
It
it
says-
arrived late.
It says 6:26. Yeah. That was the meeting before the town meeting. I didn't think.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't think we had one. I know it was supposed to.
I think that
I didn't get back. I was out of town.
I like the way Walter writes his minutes better than Bonnie.
No, Bonnie does a great job. Come on.
Amy does a terrible job. She should never do minutes again.
Walter writes.
Just saying.
Mr. Smith asked for
I do minutes
clarification.
very well.
You
Bonnie
do,
writes,
Peter.
That's why they mean I.
Mr. Smith wiped his brow,
Put them on Facebook.
sipped his drink, pondered for a
Where
moment.
was I on April 17th? But I was not here. Oh, I was in New York for work.
She wants to be a novelist.
And gazed into the eyes of the chairman. As the evening sun streaked through the.
I don't have that level of flair in my writings.
I'm so good.
It's not there now.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Motion and a, thank you, Mike. Motion and a second to accept the minutes of April 17th as presented. Any further discussion? Seeing, hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Holy moly.
Yes, mostly.
Thanks, guys. Who did the motion in the second? Well, I was,
I made the
did.
motion, Paul seconded.
Do we have another
Oh.
set since we're just on a roll?
These are extra.
What does it do?
Second, 18th. Really? Great.
5, 6? Last day to post. Well, we can't have missed it.
Second, 2018.
Oh,
Mr. Chairman?
I'll get you another copy.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of.
How many years ago?
What are you doing?
Did they get?
Oh, is this extra?
I think you need those. Those ones were, yes.
It's all right.
Oh,
You know what? I wasn't even there. I'm gonna abstain anyway.
I don't even remember this.
Apparently.
You don't remember what you were doing
It
on,
was a year ago.
May 2nd, that's almost a year ago.
they still have to be,
I guess I wasn't here.
I wasn't here
wait.
either, so I'm good.
Good. You don't even have to remember that you don't remember.
dang, I was here.
Either that or maybe we're good.
I'm almost there.
Did you get to, did you need to approve these, or
Yeah.
I didn't say.
is that me now?
He said it.
This is under your watch.
yeah, I guess I saw.
Where were you?
I don't know.
Both sign it, just both sign it.
I don't
My
know.
calendar would have prevented me from being there.
Maybe you were there.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept these minutes as written.
Well,
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna argue.
Did Aaron already move that, or
Yeah,
did,
I have it down, but
I'll claim it.
Whatever.
can I have a second then?
Second,
Thank you.
move this party along.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes of May 2nd, 2018 as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Thank you.
Yes, how old is it? School
Do we
building.
want to do one more and?
Now we're getting into overtime.
Thank you.
That?
May 9th, 2018.
Yeah, but you gotta get it home before now. I'm gonna find you at the variety store in the parking lot.
yes, I was absent for
It's
this.
going to be you again.
Wait a second. Now, Steve, was it Steve the chair?
No, Steve wouldn't have been chairman on that.
Jesus, I've been
Well,
chairman in 3
No.
years.
No,
That was May 2nd.
but you weren't,
Yes, correct.
you weren't there,
Yeah, that's correct.
but I was there.
Did you get
So
it?
I don't quite
Did you get a copy?
get what was going on that day.
I probably wasn't here.
You should have. I mean, you should have.
What,
I
that?
think, I think they're going to every other one.
This is the night.
There you go.
They stopped at me.
You supposedly chaired it.
What?
I'm not going to remember, so
When You,
I would have been vice chair, and I was there, but it says you. So, whatever.
well,
You started the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amy, were you here?
Is it wrong?
I didn't think,
absent.
it says I'm absent.
May 9th.
Pat, were these compiled from someone's notes or a video?
Video.
They were compiled from a video. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I have one correction.
You?
The date, under the very first date, the May 9, 2018.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, cute.
Star date.
Wow.
Wow.
Star date?
Start date, yeah.
Star date. Yes, star date 2189, right. That's what it'll be.
Yeah. On the 25th.
So I have a motion.
I will amend my motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Yeah, what's this down?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as amended for the May 9th, 2018 FinCom meeting. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Awesome.
I'm sorry, who seconded it? Was that you, Mike? Okay.
How many more do we have?
With me?
Yeah,
Or in general?
with you. Do we have a recent one?
Yes.
Those are more fun.
They're fun?
They're more fun.
Almost remember.
Yeah.
We almost remember we were here.
Let's see, I have,
No, but it has to be amended.
Yeah, okay. What's the source? She said video?
Yeah.
Right, it must have been.
what? 508 989 6764. These are Amy's, I believe.
But we'll have to look real close at these.
Yeah, definitely. You should look them over carefully.
Your frustration's gonna come out in it.
I was just sit here, just type, they're all dead to me, make sure. What?
Wow.
Okay.
These are Bonnies. Oh, these are Bonnies, aren't they?
I just have to say that either Patricia watched the video and filled in all of number 2 on her own, because I believe that my statement said,
These are Bonnie's.
and we heard from the Bay Road resident regarding the solar project, period. Next item.
I did that while I was driving.
These are Bonnie's, I believe these were disseminated, we all had a chance to read
The
them.
loaves and the fishes, yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, they were sent out.
They're all the same.
Good job.
Oh, okay.
But we ran out of time
Oh, okay.
to vote them.
That's why there's a couple of extras. All right, which I'll get back.
Yikes.
This is one Bonnie.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Walter,
payment in lieu of taxes,
what page you on?
page 5, fourth paragraph, the parentheticals comment there, payment in lieu of services should be taxes.
Yep.
Where was that, Walter, again?
The Mr. Units presented Article 8, paragraph,
Mm-hmm.
the parentheses should be payment in lieu of taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Payment in lieu of taxes, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we accept the minutes from the meeting on Monday, April 8th as amended.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept the minutes of April 8th, 2019 as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Awesome.
Mr. Chairman, seeing the lateness of the hour, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion, I don't know who seconded, but I heard it.
I did.
Any further discussion? Huh. All those in favor? Unanimous?
Now I get to.